Alles für die Ökonomie, jawohl, ja, ja. Wir müssen die Diversity of the planet preserven. Verstehen Sie das? Wir müssen, der deutsche white man must continuing to exist. Otherwise, diversity go away. That is why we do this. Ja, ja. But what I find the most interesting topic, and the topic we will start with today, is chatters. Apparently, you need to make many children as long as you're white. So I want non-white chatters to take their fingers, put them in their ears, and go la 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 la, because we don't want you making babies. No babies from you. If you have, okay, if Family Guy terrorist meme. Okay, so same, this, right? This, but if instead of mentally disturbed, I wanted to say make babies here, okay? Make babies. If your skin tone is more like those lines below, according to these people, which now let's all LARP to be a part of, I want 0 babies, no babies, okay? No welfare queen babies. Understand? Do you understand me? Do you understand me? I can just take out headphones. There you go, Emil Tachanka. You're Kazakh. You know exactly what to do. You need to keep watching the video, subscribe, throw money at me, but you should not listen because this does not apply to you. Or maybe they're not as racist as they are. Plot twist, they are. So yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but for the last pretty decent period, the man, the legend, the king of kings, Elon Musk himself has popularized the theory that, holy shit, no more white kids. We need more white kids. Please, not in your white wife as long as you're white. I've always found it weird, and I saw that my boy Tom Nicholas, who also came to the D program once, very chill guy, made a video about it. So let's explore it. Why do they want us to have more kids? Is it because they need a labor force without which they will slowly collapse? And if we do not create a surplus of children, which will de facto in a capitalist economy have to be from a less wealthy background, because we need poor kids that are not college educated to work jobs that nobody else wants to do. No, that's not it. It's because humanity or something. Very good. I love baby, but make sure baby white also. Oh, usually it is white people screaming about this. Imagine the way that neocons, those same neocons that are usually proposing this type of shit. Thank you for the level 4 hype train. Imagine how they would react if there was active content creators that are people of color that were constantly screaming, make more kids. We need to make more kids. I want black families to have at least 15 children in America, because that is wink important for our wink demographic growth, wink. Of course, they will be like, oh my God, the great replacement is here. They are going to fucking overtake. They are going to kill all of us. So in this case, let's see what the opinion is. Why do neocons want us to have many kids? Use all the money I saved not having kids on taking white people's jobs, houses, and women. You see, this is why we need more children to fight by any means necessary. Okay. African-American vernacular English should become standard English. I could not agree more. Thank you, CMS. Thank you, my friend, for the work you do and having a great community. It is the least I can do, but the community, that's
Wonderful.
all on you.
A new child
That
soldier.
is all on you. Okay, the fact that all of you want to listen to a deranged guy with a mask shout for around 12 to 16 hours every week is completely on you. Turns out people that like spending time that way, very wholesome. Very wholesome. For 12 months, I have had very little trolls, except the king, the Lord, who we miss dearly. We miss him dearly, the great Israeli patriot from India. How I miss being called a cumskin, pigskin, Christian, atheist, communist, fuck, or whatever the pitch was back then. I can't remember. Anyways, this is the video. Mods, please pin the video in chat and let us start. Why do neocons want us to have many babies? Many babies, indeed, many babies.
Let me show you
There's
a
too
video.
many minorities
The
in their
goal of our
water parks. I love this man. Look, this is a man that woke up one morning and said, my genome needs to reproduce. My genome needs to... Motherfucker, you look like that? All I'm saying is if you look like that and you want to have a lot of kids, there's ways where your neighbor could give you kids. It is time for woke skull measuring. I am very well known for this. Okay, I'm very well known for this. Woke eugenics is what I can have a PhD in. Understood? Okay, let's go.
Organization is not to convince people who have no kids to have 2 kids or 1 kid. It's to convince people who have 4 kids and to make it easier for people who have 4 kids to have 9 kids if they want.
This is Malcolm Collins. Malcolm and his wife Simone are authors, private equity investors, and venture capitalists based in Pennsylvania. Earlier this year, they welcomed their amazingly named 4th child, Industry Americas.
Oh my God, it's my girlfriend likes to quote this very often. She's like, the people that think that just need to reproduce continuously share the mentality of a virus. Pretty much. But I to an extent agree, to an extent disagree with the take, because, sure, if we deem ourselves to be a virus, then I'm a virus patriot. I'm a very big speciesist, humanist, maximalist, whatever the fuck you want to call it, united homo sapiens type of fucking guy. I unironically am. But those of us who are a parasitic cyst on our species, usually these ANCAP industrialist slash, fintech people, etc., them mass reproducing and creating members of their own class en masse is them creating a virus that feeds off of us as a virus. So I'm not denying we are not a virus. I am only saying that the only thing I know how to be is a virus. Therefore, I am a virus patriot, aka I love the Homo sapiens. But there are cannibalizing aspects, cannibalizing groups inside of our wider species that hurt our wider species, and that is usually the bourgeois, the big bourgeois capitalist, and people like this that propose hyper breeding, but only members of their own class are simply creating our future bosses, and therefore de facto are parasitic entities that simply multiply and impact us negatively. But that is one argument. There is a counter argument that I think is very decent. It's I don't know who I'm quoting someone. I don't know who it was. It was the greatest karma for rich people is that their kids are usually fucking idiots. That's kind of it. Like, rich people create all this shit, etc., but because their kids grow up in incredible luxury and prestige and privilege, they don't usually have a lot of skills that they garner, so they end up being fucking idiots that lose all the money. Unfortunately, capitalism and capitalists have devised many tools that allow their kids to stay wealthy and stay captains of industry even when they are imbeciles. But yeah, if you ever want to give an argument on if doesn't matter if it's a guy in the sky called God or just universal karma, there is such a thing when it comes to rich people, and it's that they are given kids that are idiots. And it's again systematic to an extent. It's not even, you don't need to make it a religious aspect. Thank you very much, Rosentic, for the 5 months, you fucking G. Thank you very much for the sub. Let's get to that 2025. It looks really nice so that we have no ads in 2025. For every 10 gift subs, I give 5 for myself. Anyways, yeah, let's look at these parasites, preach how they are the ones that need to reproduce, and most likely not anybody else.
Into the world. But if a family of 6 sounds like a pretty full house already, they don't plan to stop there.
We're gonna have more than 7 if we can, basically, until my uterus is forcibly removed in a botched surgery. I'm gonna keep going.
If you keep even vaguely up to date on the news, you've likely seen the Collinses about before. They've been interviewed a lot over the past few years, in newspapers, on podcasts, on TV. And that's because the Collinses aren't just planning to have lots of kids simply because they're fond of children. No, they're the leading lights of a new...
Again, just to remind you, if this was a Pakistani Muslim family in the UK doing the same thing, they would have their house burned down and they would be shot. Okay? They would have their house burned down and they would be shot. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Just saying. In case you're like, oh, this isn't racialized. Why do you bring race into this conversation? Yeah, this isn't race. Yeah, sure. I have a bridge in San Francisco that's like on discount right now. It's my private property. I can sell it to you right now, if that's what you believe.
Niche yet vociferous movement, which they call pronatalism.
So the Pronatalist Foundation, which
That's so true, but probably stabbed because it's the UK. Oh, chat never changed. German neo-Nazis have figured out a way how to use woke virtue signaling to hack libs by having a gay woman leader. Meanwhile, American betas have figured out the way to hack conservative empowerment by applying red lipstick after birth and casually planting long gun on camera behind Yap spot. That is a way to put it. Kind of unrelated, have you ever thought about analyzing the hooligan scene of former Yugo countries in connection to the commodification of sports and capital? That would be a very interesting conversation. But it could be one that's had about subcultures in general and how they eventually always get commodified. Not commodified, they get brought into whatever the dominant socioeconomic system of a particular place is, because you had hooligans, for example, in the 70s in Yugoslavia, which were very progressive and so on. And then, you bring the 90s, which are hyper-nationalist, hyper-right-wing, hyper-capitalist, neoliberal, and so on. And you have those very same hooligan groups then readapt to the current dominant ideology and become what they became. Thank you, Toasty. It's so sad Steve Jobs died of Neocon. Absolutely.
which we run, says no matter what.
Listen to LGBT Nazi voices and gazes. I don't know what gazes are, but yes, I agree.
But we are going to have demographic collapse in the developed world, and it will wreak
Neocon these nuts. Very funny, Anne. Very funny. You're hilarious. You're very hilarious.
Havoc on the economy. Our goal as an organization is to preserve as much of our existing human diversity as possible into the future.
Their corporate...
Did anybody just... Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Did you catch that? I don't think you caught that. Let's go back.
We are going to have demographic foundation,
which they call
listen, please.
pronatal.
Again, now carefully, let's go. Okay.
So the Pronatalist Foundation, which we run, says no matter what, we are going to have demographic collapse in the developed world, and it will wreak havoc on the economy. Our goal as an organization is to preserve as much of our existing human diversity as possible.
To preserve as much of our human diversity as possible. What is human diversity, I wonder? Is it the continuous existence of very separately defined races? Herder. Nazi DEI. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2025. Nazi DEI. I love this planet. I fucking love this planet so much. Alles für die Ökonomie, jawohl, ja. Wir müssen die Diversity of the planet preserven. Verstehen Sie das? Wir müssen, der deutsche white man must continuing to exist. Otherwise, diversity go away. That is why we do this. Yeah.
Into the future.
Their core belief is that the great...
Yeah, don't you know that if we do not we do this for the diversity? Where will diversity go if there are only non-white people? We must protect the white people from disappearance. I love the spin of white replacement as human diversity preservation. Woo-wah-wee-woo-wah-wah-wee-woo-wah-woo.
greatest threat currently facing humanity is not climate change, inequality, zoonotic disease, or any of the usual concerns you might hear raised about our crisis-stricken world, but
now I'm really glad I'm basically dressed as them, like a fintech neo-Nazi, even with my haircut, so that I can, make these points. White people, the least endangered species. No, the fact that they're even looking at racial categories there is no way you can talk about the preservation of diversity through the lens of race without believing that race is not simply a social construct, but a very real differentiator between humans, aka you think that race is biological. So what I'm saying is you have to be racist to believe it. You actually 100% have to be racist to believe this. If not, then, okay, let's say we must, here in Spain, we have very big eyebrows. We must have Spanish people fucking other Spanish people, because otherwise we would lose out on the diversity. People are like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, well, if we do not have only Spanish people fucking Spanish people, in like 200 years, we will not have this type of bushy eyebrow. That is the same level, like the preservation of bushy eyebrows is as biologically sound as the preservation of white people or black people or Asian people or anybody. Because if you're talking about the preservation of race, means that you de facto think it's a biological context. And that is, well, fucking racist. Thank you very much, T-Gay. And also quasi-scientific. It's not just even racist, it's just like incorrect. It is incorrect. Completely incorrect. And thank you, Check Habibi. Thank you very much, ka. Okay, thank you very much, ka. You have to be racist to take race as such seriously. Exactly. There's pink-tinged whites, blue-tinged whites, gingers who turn bright red after 10 minutes in the sun. This is...
Have you checked all these people?
Me when I walk into a room with these guys, or these days.
Have you checked all these people's identification cards?
No, we haven't done that. Why would we have done that, GI?
To see if there are any known Nazis. If so, they will be dispatched of in short order.
We are all feeling shot. We're all feeling like Mr. Anti-Nazi Robot here when we are looking at preserving the diversity of our human species. Indeed. Oh God, woke Hitler, bro. Woke Hitler is fucking dropping so good. Bushy eyebrows entitled people to a bespoke stat block. Pin beige whites against pale whites. I mean, wasn't that like half of World War II, bro? Thank you, T.Y. Gay. Thank you, my gay friend, for the gift sub. We are 9 gift subs away from me gifting another 5. This is just a reminder. Thank you very much.
Instead,
GI Bot did nothing wrong. Absolutely, bro.
Declining birth rates.
It's so much worse than people think. So if you look at the United States, if you project forwards the decline in fertility rate we have had in the past 10 years, and you assume one generation every 30 years, for every 100 Americans, there's only going to be around 4.3 great-grandchildren.
The Collinses aren't alone in harboring this fear that humanity might be on the brink of dying out.
Pronatalism has become a highly fashionable thought trend in Silicon Valley.
Elon Musk has repeatedly stated that
it's like it's a classic rebranding. Herder, overpopulation will destroy us, so we must make the blacks and the Asians fuck less. Blacks and Asians proceed to have beautiful, sensual sex and continue to create many, many kids. Whites are like, okay, I mean, they love sex too much, those others. How about we encourage ours to have more sex? That's basically it. That's basically it. More sex for the whites. But only with other whites, okay? Look at me, only with other whites, motherfucker.
that what he calls population collapse represents an existential threat to humanity.
Imagine your dad, like, his whole life is like, I want 7 grandchildren. Do you understand? You know, your German grandpa that migrated to Argentina. I want at least 7 grandchildren, and you bring a girl over. You know, like, Dad, I think I'm gonna marry, and I'm gonna make you 7 grandchildren with this lady. And he's like, oh, I would love to see her. In walks a black lady into the living room. Was ist meaning of this? But Grandpa, I thought you just wanted grandkids. Yes, but not, but like grandkids that are gonna be good at finance. Oh Lord.
A position
This is off topic, but have you ever thought about getting a spatha sword or something instead of a bat? Maybe. I have many machetes here, okay? I have many swords here. I have many tiny knives, indeed. We need to outfuck the other races. You don't understand. It is for the sake of our race. I mean, racial diversity, absolutely. Make 14 out of spies.
which appears to have factored into his own decision.
I mean, if you make like 14 like biracial kids, one of them is gonna pop out like looking completely like one of the parents. So the grandpa is gonna it's gonna break the grandpa's head, the Nazi grandpa's head. He's like, but how is it an Aryan child that has popped out of a black mother? And you're like, cause this whole fucking pigment thing is insane, Grandpa. You stupid fuck. Like, Jesus.
To have fathered 12 children.
You're a sword guy? No, I have a lot of knives. I'm a stab guy. I'm a stabby.
Time of recording.
From there, the belief that we urgently need to boost birth rates has become a recurring theme, both
By their logic, Mormons should run the world.
within the contrarian podcast sphere.
I mean, they are the superior white. But why are Mormons? Oh, I never even thought about this. Okay, no, like properly help your unc. I've never seen a Mormon that isn't like traditionally defined as white. And for, Mormons like those like pre-reform Mormons that have like 10 wives, why do they never have an Asian or a black or a Latino wife? Racism. Yeah, I'm guessing as much. But is there some like weird, what do you want to use as a word? Weird theory excuse in the religious text for it? In the past, black people were seen as cursed by Cain. Like literally, they're cursed with black skin. Yeah, fantastic. So wait, when the Mormons are walking around the city, like knocking on a door, like, do you want to speak about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And if a black dude opens the door, do they just turn around and leave? Oh. They're like, no, not with you. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but not with you. I think they patched that. Okay, not anymore. Okay, God bless. Okay, God bless. I always encourage relative improvement. Okay, there was a DLC. There was a DLC in the Mormon video game where in the character creation screen they also added skin pigment. Fantastic.
And informal
Buy a DLC to not watch ads.
conservative politics at the very highest levels.
We don't have enough families and children to continue as a nation.
There is one critical outcome that liberal individualism has completely failed to deliver, and that is babies.
We want to produce babies in this country, right? We want to produce babies.
When I first started making this video, I was pretty skeptical of this whole population collapse thesis. Given the rogues gallery of populists and reactionaries that have become the leading lights of the pronatalism movement, it's easy to push it aside as just another conspiracy.
Jesus Christ, Comrade Ja and Valorant helping me out here in the great jihad against advertising. Thank you very much, friends. With those 12 gift subs, that means I gotta give another 5 because mutual aid is real, even on platforms like this. Let's fucking go paint the chat blue, baby. Thank you so much, Comrade Ya, and thank you very much, Valorant. Everybody say thank you very much, Valorant and Comrade Ya, because all of those who are new in chat, by the way, I unironically do this because I unironically want there to be no ads on my channel. I want 100% of active viewers and active chatters to not have to watch ads. So, okay, let's continue. I do not want to preserve diversity amongst ad watchers and non-ad watchers. Here we believe in the great replacement theory, and we support it. For all ad watchers must be washed out. by the beautiful and superior species of subscribers.
Wonderful, a new
Thank you
child
very much,
soldier,
Theoretical
a new
Hair,
subscriber.
and welcome to the community. Thank you, Theoretical Hair, for another 5 gifties, and thank you, Valorant, for another 1. Thank you so much. That puts us at, it was 1 before, 5,
a new
that's,
child
we're
soldier,
at
I mean
7. We're
subscriber.
at 7 now, so in 3, I give another 5. I do not lie. I hate money, but I hate ads more.
Theory. The latest installment in the franchise which brought us vaccine passports, 15-minute cities, and they're eating the dogs.
They're eating the dogs.
The more time I've spent digging around this topic, however, the clearer it seems that declining birth rates really are about to lead to some pretty significant social and economic challenges for many countries. Probably the country that you're watching this from right now.
There are a few questions that I want to try and answer.
By the way, for those of you here in chat, I am commenting on this from the part of the world that is the most impacted by declining birth rates. Okay? I am talking to you from the post-socialist world, where a lot of the declining birth rates are related to a small thing known as... These were the first countries on the planet that actually introduced women to higher education and the workforce, and therefore we, on average, stopped utilizing women as a simple fucking baby-making machines, and therefore there is a higher consciousness amongst women on the diversity of choice which they might want to pursue in life when it comes to how many kids they would want, what type of career they would want, etc., etc. And throughout that entire history, at no point was the idea of carrying children, having children, or being a stay-at-home mom defined as negative. Quite to the contrary, it was defined as one of the most important jobs that the person can have as the representatives of our species. The only thing that was done is that other options were introduced. That, and then the more unfortunate aspect of it, and that was the collapse of all of these socialist experiments for this reason or another, which led to the 90s, which everywhere from ex-Yugoslavia to the post-Soviet sphere were basically the apocalypse. Like for around 10 to 12 years, people lived in the apocalypse. So that slowed down how much people can afford to have kids, etc., etc. So we just find ourselves in a very, very weird place, and there is an active negative impact on our economy because of lower birth rates. But there is a much higher, a much bigger negative influence defined as brain drain, which is where most relatively educated people, young people, emigrate out of the country because there are no fucking jobs, bro. And there are no fucking jobs because we are still being shaken by, our great embracing of the market economy and the capitalist system post-1989. So yeah. Very good. The people want you to yap louder. Okay, I will increase the microphone. Very good. Increase the microphone. The biggest issue my country faces in terms of population decline is brain drain. Exactly what I say. Yeah, if someone has high, decent life prospects, they'll move to a Western nation and often never return. Yeah, and if you actually want to impact the brain, that's always the meme. If you want to, at least in my part of the world, and again, I'm talking to you from part of the world that has arguably the highest population decline on planet Earth. If you want to have more Croats and more Serbs and more Bosnians and more Ukrainians or more Russians, maybe you should increase life standards domestically so that these people that have ideologically already been introduced to the fact that having a child without being able to support him is kind of unethical. Maybe you should increase their life standards so that they consider having a second, a third, a fourth child as ethical, because they will know that they can financially bring upkeep with the needs of the child, etc., etc. So yeah, that's kind of the wider situation. A slight oversimplification on my side, but I'm not going to bother you too much with it. The mic on the other things? What? The mic, not the other things. I increased the mic, baby. I'm talking to the mic. It is unethical as a child, as a shit father. I want to have kids that I can care for. Exactly. But so many of my friends from elementary, middle school left, bro. It saddens me. Croatia population dropped from 4.2 mil to 3.8 now. Literal genocide. Yeah. It unironically is. And it's because of the economic situation in the fucking country. It's not because the Arabs are coming and they are outbreeding us, or people are not patriotic enough, or some stupid shit like that. Kiss the mic. There you go.
Answer over the next however many minutes then. Firstly, how bad really is the decline in birth rates which the pronatalists are so incensed by? Secondly, why are they so interested in this crisis over the many other challenges the world is presently facing? And thirdly, does the pronatalism movement actually have any useful answers to the world's baby drought? Or are the real solutions ones which the Collinses, Musk, Trump and their allies would be unlikely to find so appealing?
If you look at it from any point of view, social conservatism about gender and sexuality is just the neoliberal solution to the innate outcomes it creates in societies. Absolutely. Dude, you're like long term, if you genuinely believe in the equalized development of the planet, we know that population increase at one point peaks and it evens out. But these people do not want the so-called developing world or the so-called third world to catch up with the Western world, because that is your solution. If you want the like overpopulation to stop, and you want there to be on average as many Ghanaian kids as French kids being born every year, you increase the life standards in Ghana. It's that simple. But obviously they don't talk about this because they don't want the life standards in Ghana to increase, because then how do we pay for our kids, bro? Neocolonialism, etc., etc. You know everything you want to say.
Any discussion of modern day concerns about birth rates has to start with...
Or you can make everyone in Ghana gay with wokeness propaganda. Like, make the Ghanaians gay! Make all the Ghanaians gay, that is how we win! Make all the whites straight and all the Ghanaians gay, and we're gonna be so joy and gay.
This book.
This is the
more like gay
Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich. Published in 1968, Ehrlich's book makes exactly the opposite argument to that of today's pronatalists. Rather than population collapse, it warns of a rapidly approaching future in which an exponential rise in the number of babies being born means there are more human beings alive on planet Earth than planet Earth can adequately sustain.
The main premise is that there's 3.6 billion people.
Demographic transition, I teach it to 14-year-olds, right? Exactly, but no, you cannot introduce basic logic to a theory that preaches you need more kids when the hyper-focus is on specifically white kids.
In the world today.
And it's like they're trying to an extent, like, to look at this from a more, I don't know, not to sound preachy, but like ideological perspective. It's de facto reactionary because they understand that they cannot adjust the material conditions to motivate even people in the so-called developed world, aka the West, to have more kids. Right? They are running out of money to basically throw at them to have more kids. So they have to create an ideological current where people are only having kids because of a particular belief system that they carry, aka that belief system being that the whole world is going to collapse unless I have 7-8 kids. Get it? It's like a church says, give me money because I'm helping the community. But then the church is like, I can keep more of this money without helping the community. So how does the church get more money? They hit you up and they say, you got to give us more money because God said so. That is basically this.
Writing about 70 million a year, and that's too many. It's too many because we are getting desperately short of food, that we're very much short of other resources, and that above all, the very delicate life support systems of the planet, the things...
The wokes don't want me to have babies, therefore I will make babies. That would probably work.
that supply us with all of our food, ultimately with all of our oxygen, with all of our waste disposal, are now severely threatened.
What the population bomb does share with today's pronatalists is an unapologetic alarmism. At its heart is the observation that what Ehrlich calls the doubling time of the human population has been exponentially decreasing throughout history.
Prior to 1650, he estimates the global population...
Hugo, what about people who have children in third world countries? Are they one? What do you mean? You should have as many kids as you can financially support. That is, I'm sorry, I draw a line there to call me reactionary, right? So whatever part of the world you're in, you should follow that rule. A lot of people don't follow that rule because they are not educated on the topic. They're not educated in the topic because their country is impoverished. Why is their country impoverished, especially in the developing world? Because they were fucking colonies up until yesterday. And that's it. It's massive oversimplification, but that's it.
Population doubled around once every 1,000 years. Then, in the 200 years between 1650 and 1850, it doubled again. Then again in the 80 years following that. By the time the population bomb was published, that doubling time had dropped to just 35 years.
The challenges which might come with such a rapid rise in population.
Some chatters are asking how many kids should do. I do, God, dude, but my love, I have answers about Marxism and Zizek and Hegel and shit. I don't know how many kids you should fucking have. This is super subjective. Have as many as you can love and spend time with and can financially support in this deranged fucking system. I don't have a fucking answer how many kids you should have, brother. But like, yeah, some want 2, some want 1, some want 12. God bless, but don't treat them like cattle. There was a lovely chatter that said, like, tithes for tithes' sake is fucked up. Like, these are like conscious Homo sapiens that you are birthing. They will have to, have a lot of time dedicated by you to them so that you can raise them to be relatively chill dudes and dudettes and NBs and so on. NB-dettes. So yeah, like, just... don't overdo it. I don't fucking know.
Population are
don't overdo it, don't underdo it. Do have as many kids as you want. We should be able to live in a world where we get to decide how many kids we would like to have. And the irony is that the closer a particular country is to that type of world, aka more financial viability for women to enter the workforce and more financial viability of basically having more cash, people usually tend to not have 10 plus kids. That's it.
Fairly obvious.
It might be relatively easy to double the global population in 35 years.
I can't birth the kids because I should not be a parent. Sorry, y'all. You do you, but that's I like to apply, a bit of this is just my personal opinion. Never give a leadership position to a guy that is constantly obsessed over becoming a leader, and parents that think they're going to be shitty parents most likely are going to be really, really good parents, because the fact that they think they're going to be shitty parents means that they care about how a child is going to be raised. So yeah, it's the ones that are like these fucking freaks, right, that are popping them out because white replacement or some shit. That's the ones you should be worried about. They're like, this is my duty to my motherland. You should be like, oh fuck, are you a fucking cow? Like, the fuck?
But it's much harder to increase the size of the global food industry at the rate...
People who treat kids like property, very much so. It's the commodification of kids. Like, you don't even have to go to I'm Paul Yugopnik today, I'll go back. You don't even have to go as deep as, these guys that think you should have 10 kids because otherwise white people will disappear and the world will die. It's somewhat, most people do it for, much more classic capitalism-induced ideological reasons, aka the commodification of children. A lot of people just have kids because that's how they show off their status to others. I don't only have a nice job, a nice car, and a nice house. I can also afford to have 3 kids. Look at you. You are not on this imaginary... on the same level as me on this imaginary competition that we are all fucking running on who gets to be where hierarchically, because you can say, huzzah, maybe you are grossing more than me, but I have 3 kids and you have only 1. I am a better human because I raised 3 kids and you concentrated on your career. Huzzah. That is commodification. That is the commodification of child. You're using it as a literal status symbol. And you can go in many other directions. So yeah, I guess I'm coming to by talking to you, chat, to a kind of a conclusion of where I stand on it. It is when you want to have a child because you want to love something and because you want to contribute to your species' organic growth, aka creating good humans and not just humans for the sake of humans. And when you can carry both the emotional and financial burden which is incurred on you when you choose to have a child, when you cover those bases, that's when you should have a kid. That's my super subjective, not deep opinion. Do you think the state ought to alleviate the parents as much as possible, focus more on the core family to bring up children? The state should help parents help parents that have multiple kids. They cannot financially support them, but that should be 20 to 30% of its focus when it comes to helping them in the long term. And the other 70 to 80% should be dedicated to creating an economic system in which such a concept as, parents who cannot afford to raise their children, to stop that kind of, situation from ever occurring. AKA, before you have systematic change, you help out people that are struggling because the system is just not working correctly, aka late stage capitalism we find ourselves in. So these families need to be helped. But if you only focus on the welfare state, then it's putting bandages on the cancer, right? You have to change the system so that eventually that problem removes itself from the equation as a whole. Thank you very much, Monchi, for the sub with Prime. Thank you very much. I agree. Why wouldn't have you been my father? I am your Twitch daddy, okay? Be my sub. Oh, what the fuck? Why did I just say that? Watch the video. What the fuck?
The challenges which might come with such a rapid rise in population are fairly obvious.
It might be relatively easy to double the global population in 35 years, but it's much harder to increase the size of the global food industry at the rate required to feed all those extra people. Can you build enough houses for them? Enough transport? Educate them all? Can the environment take the extra stress they'll place on the planet?
Ehrlich's answer is an emphatic no. He went on to argue strongly for governments to introduce measures to discourage people from having as many.
What is the financial burden placed on a parent when it comes to their children? You got to give them food, you got to give them shelter, you got to give them education, right? If education is a human right, if shelter is a human right, and if food is a human right, aka post-scarcity that can be achieved to a very, very close margin to that being achieved fully with a socialist system. Huzzah! You have solved absolutely like 90% of the problems that everybody is screaming about when it comes to why they don't have children. So you will create a planet in which people have as many kids as they want. But then that's going to be a problem with these people because they actually want you to have as many kids as they want you to have. They don't want you to actually choose how many kids you want. And that is the whole fucking point. You forgot the PS5. Many games and many bureks. Burekin games, yes. What is this? This is sick. Shit. One moment. Baby armor, minus 10 speed, minus 10 sneak, grants immunity against character with positive karma. Is this Elon Musk, bro? You can't shoot me. You can't tase me. You can't gas me. You can't even knock me down. Now without something very fragile and very precious going squish. Yes, this is their unironic logic. And this was Elon after the Luigi assassination. It was fucking legendary, dude. We don't even have an accessible housing market for today's millennials and Gen Z, let alone for future generations. Without approachable housing, how can one have many kids knowing there's a chance they won't be owning their homes? Incredibly correct take. And why do you think Comrade Ja or Comrade Ya, these particular guys are not answering that question? because to an extent, that is the point. They are more capitalist than even white supremacists because they know that if they have an incredibly unsustainable population boom, they will have what? A lot of poor kids that become poor adults that become cheap and easily exploitative labor. So the kind of, what's the thing, the iceberg theory on this, for me at least, is like on top, if it is white supremacy, and they do believe it, but below it, it's class solidarity. It's these super rich that have kids, that want their kids to have a big enough population to exploit once they grow up and become wealthy as well. It's quite. It's like you're looking at the iceberg and you're like, oh my God, that's so fucked up. Because you look at the top, which white supremacy is super fucked up. But then you look underneath it, it's oh my God, it's even worse. Like holy shit. I mean, it's equally as bad. It's just it's attaching to it. It's like so it's not even an iceberg effect. It's like a floating turd effect. Only the top of the shit is floating on top when you look at a poop. But then you're like you dive and the poop is like a fucking snake. Creation and maintenance of the underclass. Beautifully put, Rebel Leg. Beautifully put. It's more reprehensible to bring consciousness into this world at the moment. We got some things to change first. Yeah, I leave those sorts of opinions to you guys because it's inherently very, very subjective. Everybody's experiences are very, very different. Sometimes fortunately, sometimes unfortunately.
Children.
The only hope that there is that we will be able, at least in the United States, through the political process, to get a government that's courageous enough to say, look, we're overpopulated and we have to have population control and start moving in that direction.
This concern that the size of the global population might one day overwhelm the resources available to feed everyone wasn't entirely new. The population...
I mean, it went really well in China, remember? The one-child policy, that went fucking great.
Bomb is effectively a modernizing adaptation of an 1803 pamphlet by Thomas Malthus, which similarly predicted that overpopulation would one day lead to famine and war. Nevertheless, Ehrlich's book was a sensation. It sold more than 2 million copies, led to its author becoming a regular...
Also overloading education systems and social security. They want both of those to burn, so they don't have to fear an educated proletariat with time to ponder in their system. Exactly. For the philosopher is only the one who has enough free time to ponder on the mysteries of the universe. It's been the story of our time since fucking ancient Greece. And they know it really well. So, sorry to repeat myself, but we kind of we're developing actively as we're watching this video, and that's why I like chat. We're developing a counter thesis to this particular thesis because it's a relatively new one. It's not new because it's great replacement, but they twisted it. So, it's shit that we've seen before, but with much stronger rhetoric. And the class underpinning of what on the surface only seems to be racist, we are now realizing by actually cutting it into pieces and looking at all the pieces, is not only racist, it's still racist, but it's also got a very, very, very strong class underpinning.
Guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and firmly lodged this concern about population growth in the popular imagination.
Until very, very recently, if someone was going to strike up a conversation with you about the global population, they were almost certainly going to argue that there was simply too many of us.
Ehrlich's wish for population control even came true in at least one case in the form of China's infamous one-child policy, which punished families who had more than one baby. There was just one problem with Ehrlich's thesis. Even by the time the population bomb was published, global birth...
Before we continue, as always, I'm not sponsored, even though hit me up. Today we're doing Velo 2 out of 6. Very weak shit. This is the strongest that you can get in America. I believe it's 6 milligrams. Very weak stuff. But hey, I'm trying to cut down. We got What's up with the haircut? Velo 2 out of 6. It's good. I realized the green one is the best. It fucks with my throat the least.
Birth rates had actually started
Weaning
to
off,
decline.
baby. Yeah,
And over the next 50 years, they would steadily reach a point where the world's population was...
Look at what type of nicotine it is, though. There's types of nicotine. It's got like mint in it and 6 milligrams per pouch. Doesn't say anything else. Doesn't say about the type of nicotine. Normal nicotine needs a stronger dose, but there are other types that need less milligrams to do the same. Try 12. I usually do the 12. Sometimes when I drink, I do the 18. Right? But now I'm more sober than a fucking 12-year-old listening to a speech about population declines.
not about to catastrophically explode, but in many countries was actually starting to decline. In short then, the basic phenomenon that the Collinses, Elon Musk, JD Vance and their fellow pronatalists...
I love creators like Tom, because I would never be able to dumb it this much down. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't respect his audience, but like, you kind of have to treat your audience literally like he's using child toys to explain things. I cannot, because, you know, might sound cocky, but my chat kind of smart, if you know what I mean. My chat kind of, you know, got that big brain shit going on, you know? They also kind of hot as fuck too. They kind of sexy as shit, you know? Yeah. Fucking slurping on chat right now.
Pronatalists are so concerned by is a very real one. Across much of the world, people are having fewer children than ever before.
There are a few key metrics which help us understand.
By the way, here we min-max our kids, and by our kids, I mean our subscribers. For every 10 subs, I give an additional 5. We are currently 3 subs away from me giving an additional 5. That is 3 equals 8. I hate money, but I hate ads more. Oh, what's up by any means necessary? Joke's on you. I'm in chat and I'm dumb as fuck. Reminder for chat that overpopulation is myth. The world's richest billion people are responsible for the majority of the planet's energy and resources being used and wasted. The poorest 4 billion humans could disappear tomorrow, and it would change nothing about the various crises on Earth. That is absolutely correct. But as you can see here, we're tackling the kind of the use of that same theory, but used to inspire the reintroduction of population growth, but only for a particular subcategory of people, which is pitched to those very same people through different dog whistles that it's actually about them, and it's about preserving the Western race and the white race, etc., while being kind of underpinned, no, funny enough, overpinned, if that's a word, by the need of very rich white people to have more poor white people that they can exploit. Man, racists are so cucked always.
Understand how population size changes over time. The first is the total fertility rate. This is the total number.
Thanks for the sub a week ago. You're very welcome, punk. That's the beauty of Yugopnik Twitch. We're the only people on this whole platform where the streamer is a absolute psychopath and spends his own money so that absolutely everyone in the chat can actually have an adless experience. It's crazy.
Number of children the average woman in a given country or region will have over the course of her life. At present, for example, the total fertility rate in Egypt is 2.8, which means that, as things stand, the average Egyptian woman either has or is on her way to having 2.8 kids.
You see, again, this is why I really like Tom. Like, for example, if I was making the same video, you know how it would go? If I was making the same video, it would go like this.
The rate in Egypt is 2.8.
At that figure to another...
And I would not explain what fucking 2.8 means, because I'm like, everybody listening to my shit knows what a fucking population rate of 2.8 fucking means. So like, the fuck, you know, it's... Again, it's very good that he's doing it this way. I just, I can't do it. I can't do it.
0.8 kids.
But if we're interested in whether the population of
I also like the eugenics guys always being thin, weak nerds with glasses, great genes. Those must be, absolutely. And they found like 2 of them, both the husband and the wife, is what Adolf would literally be like, hey, maybe you don't get the budget for the creation of Übermenschen. Maybe no free house for you in Lebensraum. Yeah, you can stay here. You be accountant or something. Yeah, danke very much.
Egypt or any other country is going to rise or fall over time, then we need to compare that figure to another metric called replacement level fertility.
This refers to the number of babies that each woman in a given country or region would need to have for the size of that population to remain stable once that woman, and everyone else in her generation, passes away. In most countries today, that figure is around 2.1. The complete 2 children here effectively serve to replace the 2 parents who produced them when those parents die, whilst the 0.1 of a child accounts for the fact that, sadly, not all children will survive into adulthood to produce more children of their own.
I'm ethnically Finnish and I refuse to birth a single child. I'm not contributing to this Nazi nonsense. I gotta get sterilized before the Musk breeding farms open. I think that's a little bit extreme. Please don't do that. I don't know. If you really want to be like, I don't know, against more white people, which is kind of fucking weird as well, because that kind of also means you kind of believe in biological race. I don't know, just fucking have a kid with someone you don't define as what. I don't know. But that also would be weird because you're only having a child with someone because they're not. What the fuck? What? Don't do that. You're a little bit weird. You're a little bit weird, but you're Finnish, so it's you know, it's you can't help it.
Broadly speaking, if a population has a total fertility...
I'm a girl. Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
A new child soldier. Subscriber.
Thank you, DXJ, for the 3 months, UG. Thank you. No, you do. It's your body. You do whatever you want, but like, don't go get fucking sterilized some shit. Or do if you want. Everything I say is me continuously shooting myself in the leg. Should you do you? Yeah.
Rate of more than 2.1, it will grow.
Each cohort of parents will produce more children to add to the total population tally than they will reduce it by when they die.
If that population's total fertility rate drops below 2.1, then it will decline.
Each cohort of parents fails to have enough children to replace themselves when they pass away.
Okay, where does this one actually go? It was here.
Have you
of
seen
course,
this?
within a certain...
Seeing what? Let me see. Why is it the greatest champions of the white race always turn out to be the worst examples of it? You. What? Where the fuck is your chin? Oh, God. This is a fucking classic.
Country, this rise or fall can be either exacerbated or alleviated by migration, as people either flock to or flee from a certain place.
Nevertheless, if we look at this chart recording shifts in the global total fertility rate from 1950 to 2023, we see that from a peak of 5.3 in 1963, that figure has been trending steadily downwards. As things stand, we're having just 2.3 children per woman, and that downward trend only needs to continue a very, very tiny amount more.
Yeah, and like, ignore all the relatively more sophisticated arguments both you chat made and I made because I'm so beautiful and sophisticated. Why is it that number from past of how many people, good number, if in future we not have same number or higher number than number in past, that bad? What that's the whole argument. That's the whole. What?
Or before the global population begins to shrink. At present, this is exactly what demographers expect is going to happen. The United Nations currently predicts that the global population...
Less factory, sadge, yeah. I mean, the answer is very fucking simple because the economy needs to grow eternally and hyper-exploitation needs to exploit more hypery. So we need more people. Basically, we need more people, more slaves, please.
will peak sometime in the mid-2080s.
Which is crazy because these are usually the same guys that are like, oh my God, AI, we're gonna optimize everything. There's, we don't need so many people, but they're also like, oh my God, we need so many people.
80s, at which point declining fertility rates...
Turns out a server farm of fucking AI bots costs a lot more than a fucking underpaid Sri Lankan baby working in your mines. The AI children yearned for the mines.
Will launch us into a new era of increasingly rapid population decline. And while Paul Ehrlich might be popping open the champagne, the pronatalists are concerned that a situation of what they call population collapse might simply present us with a whole new set of challenges. Let me show you another video.
Why is it in Japan many people have no children? Why the population is going down? Why women having so few children? Are you worried?
Most normal white guy, bro. In Japan, they got plenty of its fucking problems. And the whole fucking, misuse of Japanese honor culture by neoliberal capitalist ideology to basically make them the high point of corporate slavery internationally is a whole fucking can of worms that we can discuss for hours. But why white guy walking around Japan being like, why woman and no kid? Make more kid woman now. You have booba. You need to feed a kid. Thank you very much, Witchy, for the 3 months, you fucking G. Thank you so much. Thank you, Comrade Ya, for the 5 gift subs plus 1 from Valorant. Oh, geez, I'm now realizing that Valorant is the fucking game. I'm always thanking Valorant. Fucking shit. Thank you very much, Comrade Ya. And that leads me to gifting another 5 because we have reached the goal of 10. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely beautiful. I want the chat to turn blue, baby. Fantastic.
About there being...
Ain't nobody watching ads like the ads are going to play in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So few children.
Getting so close to that 2025. Oh my God, it's so close. Oh my God. 1878, wasn't that like a fucking important year that we're at right now?
And in Japan now.
This is a clip from Birth Gap, a film by campaigner Stephen J. Shaw, who, like the Collinses, has made raising the alarm about falling fertility rates his personal mission. He's seen here doing some spontaneous street interviews in Japan.
I mean, motherfucker, be like, more people need to raise kids. How about you raise a hairline, my dude?
Which has long been viewed by pronatalists as one of the canaries in the population collapse coal mine. Like many wealthy countries, Japan experienced a significant baby boom in the wake of the Second World War. But where the baby booms in the US, the UK, Canada, and
again, thank you very much, Comrade. Yeah.
Much of Europe lasted for around 2 decades, Japan subsided after just 2 or 3 years. After which, the country's total fertility rate began to fall precipitously. As we can see from this chart, in 1947, Japanese women were having, on average, 4.5 children each over the course of their lives. But by the mid-1950s, that figure was already tickling the replacement rate of 2.1. In the early 70s, Japan's fertility rate finally plunged into the sub-2 zone, and ever since the 90s...
These guys be like, modern world where you can do 15 things every day. Have as many kids as when people could do like 3 things every day, and one of them was fucking. Probably somebody will introduce a relative eco-fascist argument to this, right? Which is like we must return to nature because we used to fuck more. They're going to the extreme instead of neoliberal capitalism is slowly fucking milking every single minute and hour of our waking time as we are further and further alienated by the great strangling hands of capitalism. No. It's go back to forest.
1990s has fluctuated between 1 and 1.5 children per woman.
Improvements in public health and the associated increase in life expectancy mean it took a little bit longer for the country's total living population to begin to decline.
It kept climbing, if more slowly, until 2010. Then it began to happen. Every year for the past decade and a half, Japan has had fewer people living in it each December than it had the previous January.
It's a very difficult issue and there is no easy fix for this issue.
Countries like Japan and South Korea often take the headlines when it comes to discussions of falling populations.
We hear stories about young people refraining from sex, extreme work cultures which leave no time for family life.
This is the duality of the chatter. This is the duality of the chatter. We have Dami Dorko and we have the good Lenin. Literally two posts, one after the other. First one is, this guy is so aggressively English, and then the next one is, Tom's voice is so soothing. The duality of the Yugopnik chatter, eternal.
And closing schools. As that declining global fertility figure shows, however, a similar trend has taken hold across much of the world. The University of Oxford's Our World in Data site recently compiled this map, which distinguishes between countries which are currently above replacement fertility levels and those which are currently below. As you can see, it's a pretty even split. According to the International Monetary Fund, around 2/3 of the world's population now live in countries which are presently on track to begin shrinking.
It's very likely that the country that you are currently sat in whilst watching this video has already fallen below that crucial 2.1 figure.
As of 2023, the US, the UK, Australia, France, Ireland, Brazil and Colombia all had fertility rates of just 1.6. The Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, Germany and Belgium are at 1.4. Canada are at 1.3. South Korea might be leading the way at a measly 0.8, but other countries are not far behind.
You look at Korea right now, and 60% of Korean citizens are over the age of 40. So it's likely already too late for them to turn this problem around. So we need to turn this around before we hit that level. But the truth is we probably won't.
The difference between a total fertility rate of 2.1 and 1.4 or 1.5 might not seem all that much.
But over the course of just 2 generations, that's the difference between a population maintaining its current size and shrinking by 35 or 45%. Even with the buttresses of increasing life expectancy and inward migration, Japan's population is on track to decline by nearly a quarter over the next 40 years. Where wealthier countries such as the United States are set to avoid absolute reductions in population for a while longer, it will largely be a result of immigration making up for that deficit in births.
But why does any of this matter? If population increase was such a concern until just a few years ago, then surely a declining population is a good thing. Are the pronatalists simply trying to fearmonger about nothing? Well, not exactly.
Now we're getting to the spicy bits that we obviously already covered, but let's see the manner through which Ben covers it. Or Tom, sorry, why did I say Ben? Tom, Ben, you know. The most core point to be kind of that I want to put in you guys' head here after all the Marxist analysis or just basic human decency analysis is human value only gets corrupted when humans become defined as a let me think on this. Brain glitched. Okay, the only reason why you would hyper-focus on our species as a whole raising in numbers is if you use individual humans as resources. Those who are currently alive and those who will be alive in the future do not care if in the United States or if in Japan or if in Germany or if in Ghana or wherever they're living, They do not care, and they will never care whether there's 10 million of them or 50 million of them or 150 million of them or a billion of them, because they most likely interact like with 50 people that are very close with, both in their family and their friend group, etc., and their close nearby community, blah, blah, blah. The only people that have conversations about the thousands of people that they need, the millions of people that they need, the hundreds of millions of people that they need are the very same individuals which deem human life as a simple resource. Okay, this does not impact your life directly in any way. And these same people will, for some reason, turn around and preach like individualism and how they're really always about, the standards of life of the individual, about individual freedoms, etc. Yet they never seem to actually treat individual human beings as said individuals. It's simply a small part of a wider machine that they want to utilize, in the case of capitalism, to generate more profit. In the case of feudalism, to have more land that they can process and generate more wealth from, etc. So TLDR, nobody except capitalists that want to make sure that them and their children remain being hyper wealthy actually give a single fuck about should give a single fuck about how many fucking people exist. That's it. It is inherently not humanist to care about how many humans there are. Bye, Whole Burns. I want to have kids with you. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah. Enjoy. Oh la la. Be careful. My mods are hardcore horny bonkers. Okay.
The potential challenges associated with Paul Ehrlich's.
I feel like I didn't make the point well enough. Forest. In forest, 100 trees. What one tree care about? Ha! Second tree next to me, third tree next to me, fifth tree next to me, and me. Tree care about sun, tree care about water, and tree care about how long tree live. Tree might also care about how long 4 other trees around it live, because it's spending most of its time looking at those 4 trees around it. Who cares about whether there are 100 trees or 500 trees or 5,000 or 5 million trees in the forest? Who? The fucking lumberjacks. You are a tree. Capitalists telling you the forest needs more trees are lumberjacks. If I made it more simple, I would have to, get a lobotomy. Thank you very much.
Population bomb scenario, well, fairly easy to get our head around.
We all know that we live on a...
Not good enough, can you make drawings, motherfucker? Is the concept of scarcity. People having less kids makes labor more valuable, leading to more power among the poor and the working class. Exactly, yeah. We talked about this for at least like 30 minutes. I agree.
Finite planet with finite resources. And while we could certainly distribute those resources much...
Technological progression is at such a pace, there's really no question about if population could be supported, but the question if this shit economic system ends. Exactly. We can develop very high life standards for everyone very easily if we actually made the economy revolve around a core ideological principle of it is supposed to serve humans, not the other way around. But because that's not how it works at the current moment, we don't have it.
Much more equitably, it's clear that there would eventually come a point where there simply wouldn't be enough food or water or energy to go around.
The challenges associated with a declining population are a little bit more nuanced.
For some pronatalists, the fear is one rooted in outright racism. They look at this.
So if I sun, I become a tree because trees can't see, therefore can't see ads. Brilliant jihadi argument. Anti-ad jihadi argument, very good. I like you.
This map of countries with above and below replacement level fertility, and worry that, to put it bluntly, African countries are quote-unquote outbreeding European and North American ones. Hungary's far-right Prime Minister Viktor Orban has openly built his policy agenda around fighting such a scenario.
We're living in times when fewer and fewer children are being born throughout Europe. People in the West are responding to this with immigration. They say that the shortfall should be made up by immigrants. What we need is not figures, but Hungarian children. In our minds, immigration means surrender.
Others on...
This is very funny coming from a Hungarian, because how was the Hungarian state founded? Bro. How was the Hungarian state founded, bro? For those of you who don't know, it's basically a bunch of fucking Asians came and conquered a place in Europe, and then they had sex with the Europeans, and after a couple of 100 years, they started looking like Europeans. And that's the guy that's like, hey, I don't want the peoples from Asia coming in here. And people say Asians can't be racist. There you go. Hungary is the example of the opposite. Where motherfuckers be like, point to me, point to a racist Middle Eastern country. I'm like, Hungary, bro.
On the right fear that, regardless of what happened within their borders, shrinking national populations will lead to decreased military, economic and cultural strength on the world stage. But even if we bracket off some of this more extreme stuff for a moment, and even if you believe, quite plausibly, that the declining impact on the environment which will come with a smaller global population would be a good thing, then there's still some very
Anyone
real...
who says Asians can't be racist have never met an Asian. We are all racist. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Asia be crazy racist.
practical challenges.
Hello, are you racist? I love saying racist, like racist. Are you racist? I'm not racist. Why are you calling me a racist?
Come with a country or the whole world.
What country's accent would that even be? Like fucking Finnish or something?
Old population declining too rapidly. At the heart of this issue is the simple fact that a population which is shrinking due to low fertility rates doesn't shrink proportionally to its current makeup. Instead, as people have fewer and fewer children, there's an increasing proportion of older people to younger ones. We can see this fairly plainly in this chart, which tracks the median age of people in Europe and North America from 1950 to the present day. Since the end of the post-war baby boom, the median age of both regions has increased by about 12 years. The crucial figure to keep our eye on, however, is what's called the old age dependency ratio. This tracks the percent Camp podcast.
Oh, blядь, šta koji kurac, bre, hey, where the fuck you going?
Have fewer and fewer children, there's an increasing proportion of older people to young.
Alien accent after the humans aren't around. Somebody's watching. Diggy skibbles.
Younger ones. We can see this
Don't let the monolith catch you, bro.
Plainly in this chart, which tracks the median age of people in Europe and North America from 1950 to the present day. Since the end of the post-war baby boom, the median age of both regions has increased by about 12 years. The crucial figure to keep our eye on, however, is what's called the old age dependency ratio. This tracks the percentage of a given population at a given...
I have been subbed and watched on YouTube for years. Mike created here a few days ago, and I've been subbed ever since. Thank you, King, for what you do. No, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you very much, King.
Time, which is over the age of 65. And it's referred to as the dependency ratio because as they retire or become unable to work, old people become increasingly dependent on younger people to keep things ticking over. This is sometimes true in a very direct sense. They might need carers or healthcare workers to look after them. Even if they're healthy, they need shop workers and delivery drivers and warehouse staff.
Yeah, and more people will be willing to dedicate their time on taking care of older people as a literal profession if there was actual living wages being given to these caretakers. Herder, we don't need a horde of underpaid caretakers that don't really care about their fucking job because they're too busy thinking about, putting bread on their own table. We need caretakers that actually care, and we will get them if we actually invest in our healthcare system. We're fucking derb. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, the olds are not being well taken care of. What's the solution? More children. I am very smart.
Staff to furnish them with goods and services. Older people continue to use electricity, water, and roads which need maintenance.
And what about robots and automation? No, we gotta utilize those for making more profits, bro. You cannot use technology to help those most disenfranchised in our communities. No. You gotta make AI pictures.
And improvement. And on a broader level, for older people to receive either state or private pensions, they need younger people to be paying taxes and keeping...
There's a saying in nursing, cheap nurses aren't skilled, skilled nurses aren't cheap. There you go.
The stock market buoyant enough that there's something to pay them. In a country which is either at or above replacement level fertility, this isn't too much of an issue. Every time a bunch of older people retire, either the same or a greater number of younger people join the workforce to replace them. They can provide all that direct support whilst also ensuring the economy continues to grow. Furthermore, in a growing population, the ratio of older people to younger people actually decreases over time. During the baby boom years of the 1960s and 1970s, for example, over 65s accounted for less than 15% of the population of both Europe and North America. As fertility rates have dropped, however, that figure has more than doubled. Europe is likely to hit an old age dependency ratio of 1/3 in just the next few years, and North America isn't far behind. As we'll see shortly, a lot of the most enthusiastic torchbearers of the pronatalism movement are driven by some pretty ugly motives. Racism, classism, and a desire to bemoan the increased agency that contemporary society affords to women.
We've seen an increasing stratification among men, where some men at the top get an increasing amount of mating opportunities, and then while men at the bottom are being excluded from mating.
But before we dig into any of that, it's important to again stress that there are real challenges here.
State pension systems across the world are already facing crisis as old age dependency rates
SMH when I can't mate, SMH.
Ratios shift higher and higher. Healthcare systems are being stretched. And older voters are electing older and older politicians.
And yet, just because the core problem is real, doesn't mean that some of the explanations for why we're having less kids, which have been adopted by the pronatalists, are entirely legit. In fact, some...
Okay, Tom, but what are the core problems? That there's less people, so the economy will have to readjust to there being less people, which most likely will come out of the pockets of large industry owners and not necessarily the people that operate said large industry. Like there's, I want to have kids and shit. Like I'm far from an anti-natalist, but there's no problems. Like this is not a problem. It just is not.
A pretty suspect indeed. So I guess it's about time we talked about this thing.
If you look at this chart, tracking the changing total fertility rate in the United States and United Kingdom from 1950 to today, you'll see that things really began to take a turn during the 1960s. Which makes a lot of sense. In 1960, the US Food and Drug Administration approved the first oral contraceptive pill. Just 4 years later, a quarter of all American couples...
Netanyahu allegedly has prostate cancer? Nah. Those types of demons never die of a disease, dude. But then again, he'll talk about like... if there is a God, Netanyahu is getting his prostate removed. Holy shit, Netanyahu will not be able to get an erection anymore. as he faces crises on multiple fronts. Tel Aviv, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is having his prostate removed on Sunday, his office said. Procedure that comes as he manages multiple crises at once, including the ongoing genocide in Gaza and his own trial for corruption, and also him being chased by the International Criminal Court because he's a fucking war criminal. Oh, well, there you go. No erection Netanyahu. That we got no erection Netanyahu before we got GTA 6.
Were using it. Its rapid popularity saw the various legal restrictions on who it could be prescribed to gradually over.
I mean, Netanyahu will not be able to grow the ethnic Israeli population anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Returned, and its efficacy and ease of use ensured it was quickly embraced by women and couples wanting to gain greater control over if and when they conceived.
All of this makes it kind of easy to infer that the decline in fertility rates is a direct result of contraception simply getting much better and more widely available. In fact, some pronatalists have flirted with trying to shed doubt on the efficacy and safety of the pill.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't use birth control. I think we shouldn't use, I think hormonal birth control is making a lot of women sad and depressed.
Yes.
And they don't realize it, and they don't realize that's the cause.
Nevertheless, this is a niche view. Even those commentators most willing to bemoan expansions in women's agency will accept that safer and more reliable contraception has been a means through which people have changed the number of children they had rather than the reason that they've done so.
It seems obvious that, one of the causes, the distal causes, I would say clearly, is the promotion of the birth control pill. But even that is a somewhat shallow answer because there's a very specific set of social and economic realities, zeitgeist, that even made the invention and distribution and acceptance of the birth control possible.
For one, many countries
Yeah, that zeitgeist was called people not being able to afford children. I know that he's talking about the zeitgeist of the women became whores. They became whores and they never married because if they got married, if they got forced into marrying, they would then always have children because their husband would decide when they get children. But it's ironic that he's talking about a zeitgeist that exists and it's called nobody being able to afford to have kids. And that is why they want more control over when they do have kids. Ha ha ha. And why can they not afford to have kids, my friend? I wonder.
A drop in peacetime fertility rates during the Great Depression, when the pill hadn't even been invented yet. Further, as Stephen J. Shaw highlights in responding to Jordan Peterson there, the pill wasn't legalized in Japan until 1999, when that country's total fertility rate was already well under replacement levels.
But perhaps you can see why declining fertility rates might have piqued the interest of some conservatives. Because why the exact reasons that we're having less kids are hotly contested, we do know that it has something to do with countries getting richer, and more particularly, women becoming more educated.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to make all the points that we made in the beginning of the video, but still we can readjust them for the newer chatters that are entering.
Let me show you another graph from Our World in Data.
This bubble chart compares the total fertility rates of the world's countries with those countries' GDP per capita, which is an, albeit flawed, measure of national wealth. What we see is a pretty strong correlation between a country being richer and a country having lower fertility.
Yeah, but you need to remember that while fertility rates fall in wealthier countries, they don't simply fall because richer people don't want to have as many kids, but because there is a direct correlation in neoliberal capitalism between how much money you have and how much education you can afford, unfortunately. But we have had social and systematic experiments in ex-Yugoslavia and in the ex-Soviet Union where individuals in those countries were far, 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 far from as wealthy as they were in Western Europe or the United States, the system still dedicated a lot of its time to improving education for all and improving accessibility to education for all, where it differentiated, it cut with the previous idea that you need a lot of money in order to get a premium education. So by focusing on both classic education in high schools and universities and so on, they also concentrated on the education of the most exploited members of society, which, in post-Tsarist Russia and post-semi-feudal Balkans was the woman. So while they might not have had as much money as the West, they decided as a society to dedicate a lot of its time to both educating the woman in basically telling her, yo, you have a choice, bro, but also in elevating education, accessibility to education for everyone through the idea that education should basically be completely free. The main reason I am bringing this up is that I've seen plenty of capitalists introduce the idea that developing countries should be pushed harder into neoliberal capitalism, into free market policies, because the pitch there is they're going to start having less kids if we do that. There is an alternative to this way of thinking, which is, as I previously said, leaderships of particular countries focusing on actually giving their wider population, especially the women, I apologize, wider access to education, and destroying the taboo of a woman potentially choosing to do something else with her life except being a home carer, which again, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's even beautiful to be a home carer. It should just always be a thing that you choose to become, not something that is placed upon you by either material necessity because you have no alternatives, or a patriarchal ideological underpinning that your country basically runs on. And very often, as we are realizing from these hardcore pronatalist people, necessitates because they need more poor people to be born so that they allow themselves to be exploited at a higher rate because they don't really have another choice. That is why this is both a racist issue, but it is, to funnily enough, an even greater extent, a class issue and a capitalist issue. And all you stupid ass fucking whites thinking that these guys are here to help you out because they want more white people, I'm sorry to inform you, but they want more poor white people that work for them for low salaries. That's what they fucking want. Thank you very much, False Kakaroto, for the 12 months / 8 months. Thank you very much, beautiful. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dragon Army, as well.
Wonderful.
East Germany had a much smaller gender gap in the STEM fields than West Germany did. East German women also reported having twice as many orgasms as West German women. I mean, history writes itself. Thank you, Johnny Soda, for the 12 months as well. Fucking OG. I remember Johnny was one of literally the first chatters. Thank you very much. Also, child labor laws make kids an expense instead of a source of income, which also leads to people having less kids. Absolutely, dude. The more impoverished you are, the less time you can dedicate to your child. The less time you can dedicate to your child, the less skills it manages to acquire that have been passed down through generation to generation. The less skills it manages to acquire, or less understanding of self and their place in the world, the higher chances their overlords will be able to convince them, quote unquote, push them would be a better word, into servitude. It's that. It's just literally that.
Fertility rates. There are several proposed reasons for this. One is that in poorer countries, children are...
But West Germany had fancy billboards, so who wins, really?
often an economic benefit to a family. They very quickly become an extra pair of hands.
This is also part of the justifications they use for shock doctrine capitalism as well. Super gross, especially considering the harm that austerity can do to women. Cuts to programs that could benefit women and vagina havers. Adequate health care, access to sanitation, abusive home networks, research into gynecology, research into breast cancer, and much more. Absolutely. I made a video on this like 7 million years ago. How capitalism destroys the family trademark. It talks about this on end.
Which can support a family business or help around the house, making life easier and boosting the parents' income. In fact, with children being so useful and infant mortality rates being relatively high in poorer countries, you might have more children than you otherwise might choose to, in case some sadly pass away.
And that's where like Orientalism comes in. A lot of Western people will sit in their ivory towers, especially their, finance people, capitalists, very, very wealthy people in general. And they will point at the barbarity of the Far East, where the child is utilized as a resource by a family, where they usually say, the parents aren't skilled enough or smart enough to make more money, so they make a lot of kids so that they can use those kids as labor, which is always exceptionally funny, because that's exactly the same thing you guys are proposing in the West when you say we need more kids. You are just willing to wait, because you're more privileged, until they are 18 before you put them in that same exact type of servitude. So it's, throwing a lot of fucking rocks from a very, 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 very glass house.
As a country gets richer, this is less and less the case.
Laws might be introduced banning child labour. The government is likely to introduce compulsory education up to a certain age. Children very quickly cease to be an economic boon and become an economic burden instead. Not only can they no longer boost the family finances by working, and not only do you...
when you have conversations with these crazy natalist people, you're like, okay, let's all have 10 kids. But in order to support those 10 kids, we should have free, middle, and higher education, free health care for them until they're at least 30, and a general state plan on how to turn them into active, productive, and most importantly, prosperous members of society, which have at least this and this amount of income yearly. Imagine if you told them that. When it's not just about having more kids that are eventually going to be indentured serfs, but having more kids that actually have a high or at least decent life standard. That's when it switches.
You still have to feed them, but you might need to buy...
I've seen a few regression studies. They counterintuitively say the main driver of fertility rates is child mortality. This doesn't really suit the GDP or women's lib arguments, so no one raises it. Yeah. Also, all that child labor in the developing world greatly benefits the West economically, so why would anyone with resources in the West try to implement change? Exactly.
Buy them school books and uniforms and transport them around.
Just as important, however, is this graph.
This graph maps national GDP per capita against the World Bank's Gender Parity Index. What it shows is a positive relationship between a country's national wealth and women and girls within that country having more equal access to education. It's worth saying that this is very much a two-way relationship. It's not only that wealthier countries tend to extend more opportunities to women, but that, surprise, surprise, utilizing the skills and talents of your entire population tends to be economically beneficial.
This does have implications, however, for having kids. In countries where women are expected to work, there's simply less time for being pregnant, giving birth, and raising children.
Given that taking the necessary time out of work to raise a kid can have a significant impact on a woman's career prospect and earning potential, children only become more of an economic burden.
I'll leave you to go and take a pee-pee with Tom. Stay with Tom. I'm going to go take a pee-pee. Much love. Enjoy the Tom. I leave you with Ho Chair Min as well. That's the name of my chair. Ho Chair Min. And no, he's not a hoe.
As couples have to weigh up the joy and fulfillment of having children with the increased security of greater earnings.
And it's here that the conversation surrounding declining fertility rates becomes kind of politically contentious.
Because at this level, the fact we're having less children appears to be a product of social, political, and economic changes which many of us view as deeply positive. It is a good thing that women are no longer the property of their husbands, that they can go to school and are able to pursue their desires and ambitions in the world.
And there is a way of engaging in this conversation which is sensitive to that. In the hands of some of the most vocal pronatalists, however, that tends not to happen. Which I guess means that it's time to show a bunch of clips from the podcast sphere. Which is maybe scary enough. Let me show you another picture.
This is the thumbnail from an episode of British podcaster Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom podcast. Williamson is an ex-Love Island contestant turned British Joe Rogan alike.
Which I don't mean as an insult, I think he would really like that comparison.
Like Rogan, his show features a range of guests, including health gurus, the very occasional celebrity, and a glut of political commentators, usually of the more contrarian variety.
Yeah, the idea that we are living through a climate catastrophe seems highly suspect to me. Highly suspect.
But also somehow very sexy.
The fertility crisis has become something of an obsession of Williamson's. He's had several pronatalist campaigners and researchers on to discuss the topic, and often brings it up in other conversations too.
You'll be maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th conversation that I've had on something to do with birth rates, declining fertility, and I'm going to keep on banging this drum.
But this thumbnail is particularly telling for the state of the conversation surrounding falling fertility rates. Because the more combative pronatalists seem to quite like being accused of being misogynists. In an era in which the importance of any given political issue is often judged less on merit than on how controversial it can be made to appear, such accusations...
What happened? What drum happened? What the fuck? What, brother? Was that Sargon? What? Should you just go back?
On combat for the state.
And on
that comparison.
Like Rogan, his show features a range of guests, including health gurus, the very occasional celebrity, and a glut of...
The chair said slurs. English Joe Rogan appeared. Oh my god.
Political commentators, usually of the more contrarian variety.
Yeah, the idea that we are living through...
I used to watch Sargon unironically. Holy shit. I mean, everybody did for like 5 seconds. Only the... Those that need genuine psychological help continued on afterwards.
A climate catastrophe.
Who is Sargon? We have young people in chat. Holy shit. Somebody get the fucking 12-year-old out of here, brother.
He seems...
No, it's very good that you don't know who Sargon is.
Highly suspect to me. Highly suspect.
But also some...
Oh my god, I love this is... We have all the Sargons. This is the Slavic Sargon or whatever the fuck he is. Is he Georgian? I don't fucking know. He's basically a traitor. We have the classic white Sargon, and we have the Sargon, you know?
Somehow very sexy.
The fertility crisis has become something of an...
I'm 29. Then you touched a lot of grass, and I'm very proud of you, my child. You have touched so much grass if you don't know who Sargon is. You had an actually decent childhood. I'm very proud of you. A Russian. Yeah, there you go.
An obsession of Williamson's. He's had several pronatalist campaigners and researchers on to discuss the topic, and often brings it up in other conversations too.
You'll be maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th conversation that I've had on something to do with birth rates, declining fertility, and I'm going to keep on banging this drum.
But this thumbnail is particularly telling for the state of the conversation surrounding falling fertility rates. Because the more combative pronatalists seem to quite like being accused of being misogynists. In an era in which the importance of any given political issue is often judged less on merit than on how controversial it can be made to appear, such accusations help set them up not simply as people studying a phenomenon which has been overlooked, but as renegade modern-day Galileos who are being suppressed by the political establishment.
And so we did something that pissed off the deep state bad.
The deep state! The deep state doesn't want you to have kids! You should have more kids, especially if you're white. The fucking deep state out here. The deep state out here whipping my dick out of my wife. The deep state out here whipping my dick out of my wife. The deep state looks at me from the window. It's like, you're not gonna get hard, brother.
Just that there might indeed be a little bit of either intentional or completely accidental
Whatever deep state doesn't let that guy have sex is the type of deep state that I genuinely support.
misogyny.
Long live the whatever. Is it Jewish? Is it Russian? Is it Chinese deep state? Let's fucking go. I love it.
Some of these pronatalist conversations does risk playing into this victim narrative. But
you want to see what I think about pronatalism? I think that this should be their image and it's going to solve everything, okay? This is true pronatalism. This is absolute pronatalism. This is the future. This is the future. Do you understand me? This is the future. I'm kidding. I hate this. We should not touch any aliens.
The reality is that almost all of the leading pronatalists steep their discussion of this topic either in tired anti-woke grievances or at least incel-adjacent views.
Look at this picture, chat. Look at this picture of all of these people talking about pronatalist stuff. They are two things, okay? They are two things. They are not two things. Wait. They are not two things. They are not... Okay? They are not... One moment, okay? If you look at this picture, what is missing? What is missing is people who look like this, okay? Okay? And the second thing that is missing is people who look like this. Okay? If you look at this, these are the types of people that are not encouraged to have the same type of conversation. Do you understand me? Okay, very good. And women, of course. Oh no, we have women. Unfortunately, you guys fucked up on that one. We have a lot of like crazy white supremacist, hyper elitist, capitalist, ultranatalists that happen to be women because their class interests overturn their comradeship with fellow women who maybe don't want to just be looked at fucking baby-making machines.
Views of sex and relationships.
Seriously, I've watched...
Is it mean to say that people who look pretty and handsome are missing? I mean, you said it.
So many of these videos over the past couple of months, it has kind of broken my brain.
If you create a society in which you don't get lauded, you're not celebrated, you're not like the cool people for getting married and or having kids, you're not going to do it because you're not an idiot.
Simone and Malcolm Collins' Based Camp podcast generally swings towards the more extreme end of this spectrum. There's a pretty stark contrast between the website of their pronatalist.org foundation, which is fairly professional and reasonable, and their YouTube channel, which looks like this.
Called it from the beginning. Called it. Just like I'm going to call the ad that is going to play in exactly 1 minute and 35 seconds, which you should avoid by being, okay, why spend $6 on your child when you can spend $6 on not having a child and instead on a Twitch subscription by your favorite Yugopnik Twitch channel and avoid the ad that's going to play in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Also, by gifting subs, whenever we hit 10 gifted subs, doesn't have to be by one person, I gift another 5 because I might not sit around saying you should have kids, but I will sit around saying that less people should watch ads. The Great Jihad shall reach 2025 in 2025, and we shall watch no ads. Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Thank you, Palmer. There you go. That is a great patriot of the jihad, of the Great Jihad against advertising. Thank you for the 5 gifties. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, that is a true brother that likes to create more children, if you know what I mean. By children, I mean subscribers, brother indeed.
That as a result of audience capture or simply an attempt to get more clicks through sensationalism by the time of the 2024 US presidential.
Well, 5 gift subs away from another 5 by me. That means 5 gift subs equals 10 gift subs. That is absolutely insane.
Election, the Collins' slightly oddball response to and their YouTube channel, which looks like this.
Why do Jews bother with friends? How the left took over big business. I mean, I knew they were stupid, but no, I actually thought they were kind of smart-ish. I thought they were smart reactionaries because they're talking about preserving human diversity, aka more white people. They're talking about how it's very necessary for the world to progress, that we have more worker bees, blah, blah, blah. I thought they were doing very good dog whistles, chat. They were doing like very, very decent dog whistles. But communal capitalists is... Oh, wait, sorry.
No, which looks like
is there one with all
this.
black people? Wait. Okay. Marxists run the whole thing with Curtis Yarvin. Yes, absolutely. We remember when we ran the thing, chat? China, are you okay? It's worse than you think. Incredible craftsmanship here. I give this one a 10 out of 10. We have a man in darkness in the background. I don't even think it's G. Yeah, this is not G. This is Scary Asian Man. Scary Asian Man. Look, she is scared of Scary Asian Man. He's like, oh my God, do not have sex with my wife. Okay, we have big China here. Oh my God, it's so good. This one is actually good. This one is fantastic. Give this one a 10 out of 10. This one is very good. Autism is not your gender. Okay, autism is not your gender. A picture with women with a lot of different hair colors. Okay, it's very good. Picture of women with a lot of different hair colors in the background. Picture of woman with child that is looking back towards the many different women with different hair colors. And then we have mental health challenges are an important part of my identity. They said identity, not gender identity. Okay. And then a skeptic man looking very auspiciously, okay? Dutch communist YouTube left laser infiltrated the MAGA.
We're here today at Turning Point U.
Well, let's watch this later. We'll watch this
We're
later.
here today.
When was this posted? An hour ago. We'll watch this later. The zombification of black culture. My racism levels aren't high enough to even understand what this is supposed to be. I don't get this one. What's this one? But it's like a 3 out of 10 because they used AI art because, like it's a black person, I guess, because they have dreads and they're being controlled by something and they're zombies. People with more like racism lore. What is the zombification of black culture? Help a non-racist brother out here. Drugs? Yeah, maybe it's that type of shit. It's cheap. Like they're being controlled like through drugs. Ooh. It's probably something like Jews in Hollywood control black culture. Yeah, that's an internal classic, but why is zombification? I don't know. Protecting education with Jewish technology. I genuinely don't my level is not high enough. My level is not high enough, and I do this for a living. Like I call out my expertise lies more in fascist ideology than it does even in Marxism, and I don't get this one. What the fuck? What is what?
Whether
and this is the type of people that Piers will get on his fucking show. Thank you, DMT, you fucking G.
as a result of audience capture or simply an attempt to get more clicks through sensationalism, by the time of the 2024 US presidential election, the Collins' slightly oddball response to declining fertility rates had descended into them ranting about how the Democrat Party is actively trying to keep women single in order to get more votes.
Women in society historically, they would rely on a partner to help care for them and to help care for their kids.
Oh, and now it's the state.
Yeah, and when you disintermediate the family unit, you can use the state both to decrease the BATNA of a woman to not have a partner, while also acting as...
Oh, the state is actively encouraging the women to not have the BATNA. We must destroy the state for it is encouraging the woman to not have a partner by not doing anything. Smartest right-winger.
The caregiver. Like, these women are sort of like nuns to the state. They're basically married to the state.
Amid this hyperbole
What the fuck?
and invective,
The state wants to have no population. No smart brain.
the Collins' core argument is that the drop in global fertility rates is primarily the result of shifting cultural priorities.
Some mixture of the decline of religion and the rise of feminism has, they argue, caused a shift in gender roles which is damaging relationships and by extension leading to a lack of kids.
I think part of this is progressivism has made women undateable and unmarriable, like the modern iteration of it.
They're supposedly egalitarian.
Look at you. This is going to be misogynistic, but look at your wife. It's not exactly screaming bombshell here, bro. Oh my fucking God.
Women
I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't stoop this low, but come on.
Dateable and unmarriable, like the modern iteration of it.
Their supposedly egalitarian solution to stopping the decline in fertility rates is thus to encourage groups who already seem to be having more kids to have even more. And while they strongly refute any accusation that they have eugenicist tendencies, this does seem to amount to encouraging rich people like themselves to reproduce over others.
The point of why governments need to encourage pronatalism is because they need to produce more taxpayers. If governments only produce more non-tax-paying, very low-earning citizens, their infrastructure is still going to crumble, they're still going to be politically unstable, they're still going to have pension fund nightmares. What you need is high taxpayers. And so any government incentive to have kids should disproportionately incentivize those most likely to pay a ton of taxes.
Holy shit, the government should give more money to very rich people to make more rich people. You know that that's actually additionally stupid because now they're just acting against their own interests. Then your kids that are going to be significantly less rich than the more rich people are going to end up losing in the great competition of the market that you pray to so strongly, bro.
Focus on cultural change run throughout the podcast-defined version of the fertility rates conversation.
In fact, Chris Williamson's conversation with Mads Larsen.
Yeah, give me more money so my employees can make babies. Okay, so we do not want higher taxes because if the government was actually to pay poor people to have more kids, that would mean we have to pay more taxes. But as we all know, the government doesn't know how to properly allocate resources. So why doesn't the government give me money as somebody who employs like thousands of people, and I will give some of my employees extra money as long when they have kids, as long as obviously they sign over their child to my LLC for at least 20 years. It doesn't have to be too authoritarian. We can use current laws for it, like I don't know, a loan that is passed down to the child after the payment is issued to the parent. So you want to have kids, I can give you $100,000, right? But then when your kid turns 18, they will have to pay off that $100,000 adjusted to inflation, which at that point will probably be something like $3 million by working it off for me. There was a word for it. I think it started with S. I think getting children into indentured servitude through the, what was it? By getting their parents into loans, and then the parents had to like give their kids to employers which would not really treat them as employees, but S. Oh my God, can't remember. It's some shit I don't remember, bro.
Is a pretty good case in point. Larson is a literature scholar and evolutionary psychology enthusiast whose interest lies in what he calls mating ideologies. In short, the changing ways in which
How about you mate first, bro?
societies think about sex and relationships.
It is the foundation of all social orders. We like to think that politics, philosophy, all those big subjects are what it's all about, but at the foundation, it's how men and women reproduce. And upon that, everything else rests.
That thumbnail aside, Larson is less of a controversialist than the Collinses. Nevertheless, both he and Williamson are pretty certain that declining fertility is a direct result of more and more people being single. This, it's worth saying...
I don't know about you, chat, but I think that realizing that simply procreating is, while important, not the only thing that our existence should revolve around. I don't know about you, chat, but I think that's the first thing that differentiated us from animals, whose eternal and absolute life goal is exclusively the procreation of their species. But that's just me. I don't know. I like to do other stuff except nurse baby. That doesn't undermine how beautiful it is to nurse a baby, but it's also not the only thing that your life should revolve around, because if it did, you are no different to a monkey. You are a literal fucking gorilla, bro. You're a fucking gorilla. You probably fuck like one too. Fucking nuts in 2 seconds, bro.
Saying is a very real trend. Between 1990 and 2019, the proportion of 25 to 54-year-old Americans who are single increased from 29% to 38%. It's also increased ever so slightly more among men than women. As Larson tells it, the key factor here is a shift in our contemporary mating ideology, which has allowed women to become more choosy in who they date and have kids with.
Women have been empowered.
Oh yeah, there we go. It's the women's fault. The reason we don't have more kids is the women's fault. Women choosing not to be nutted in by people, that's actually women's fault. Women, how about you let everybody nut in you?
To have their own jobs, make their own money, be free, and importantly, to choose their own partners for the first time in human history. The result of that has been that the better women are doing, the more...
I love how there can be 700 different sophisticated counter arguments to this, but my favorite one that I actually haven't thought about, I haven't seen anywhere else, I'm proud of having to an extent invented it, is if, okay, more people is the most important thing. Why no more people is because women are allowed to choose. Okay, fuck it. We turn all women into breeding farms. But then we have to also turn the men who are fucking modern idiots that do other stuff except jizz also into breeding farms. All men must breed one woman a day. All men must nut in millions of women. You must be caged into these farms where you just get your nut fucking splurted out of you, and then you inseminate. We should just turn the whole planet into farms where we make more people. Because that's at the end of the day the argument. But because it's patriarchal and sexist fuck, it's only the women that need to get bred whenever we decide. What about you? What about you? I want you to have 700 kids. Okay, I want you to be put in a farm where you get milked, and that gets put into a syringe and it breeds more people for eternity. Okay, Matrix, but they don't make electricity. They just breed for eternity. Fucking hell, bruv. Thank you very much, Mike Bishop. Welcome to the Jizz Factory. Exactly. Welcome to the Jizz Factory. Because the joke is on the meme is always hey, the women don't want to fuck us. That's why there's less women. Okay, what if we solve that? What if we turn full fascist and solve that? Shouldn't we apply the same logic to men who are now all these picky whatever the fuck?
Or they exclude the lowest value men from...
Come extraction institutionalized. Exactly, brother. Inspired by the great Israeli state.
Their potential pool of partners.
The challenge, as he sees...
Yeah, but okay, you don't get to choose either. You don't get to choose either. You don't get to choose either.
Is that...
Hell, there's no choice, okay? There's no choice. You cannot have sex. Because when a man chooses what sort of women he wants to have sex with, he is undermining the main goal that us as humans have, according to this man, which is creating more offspring. Okay? You are denying humanity's destiny by picking what sort of woman you are having sex with. You must have sex with all women. Hell, you do not have sex, you get cum extracted and it gets injected.
There simply aren't enough quote-unquote high-value men to go around. The women who miss out thus end.
Do I have to wank, or is there a machine extractor? There's a machine extractor, and it's very unpleasant. Because if you enjoy anything in life, it will push you away from your core directive, which is making more children, okay? You cannot enjoy the process of an orgasm, because that directly refocuses you away from your true purpose, which is the creation of children, not sex as a concept, okay?
End up sad and alone, as do the quote-unquote low-value men.
No more sex because it has too low of an impregnation change. Absolutely. Absolutely no sex. Sex is completely banned. Are you fucking insane? What are you, a anti-child bearer? We all know that sex doesn't always 100% of the time lead to another child. No. There's pure extraction and injection.
What's interesting about this conversation, and so many others like it then, is how quickly it transforms into a fairly generic manosphere debate with all of the usual concerns.
The idea that there are reasons to not want to have children. One reason is an overwhelming self-centered narcissism. That's not the only reason, but it's definitely one reason. And people talk about, the interference with their personal freedom and their desire to pursue their career. And in that, I read something like the absolute inability to ever sacrifice your own narrow self-interest. And I do mean narrow to the what would you say, concerns and needs of other people.
As with the Collins...
Okay, apply that to men now too. That's why I find it to be a Yugopnik trademarked argument, because I haven't heard, I unironically have not heard it anywhere else. Okay, just apply the same thing to men and look at them get fucking weirded out, Show them pictures of women that they do not find conventionally attractive and tell them, if it's all about having kids, just go breathe the fuck right now. There you go. She's right here.
These conversation
fucking stops, eh?
Include
because it was never about women being too picky. Okay? In general, it was never about people being too picky. It was always about women being too picky.
Moments of qualification in which the interviewees attest that they're big supporters of women's rights and gender equality.
It's very important for me to state that I am an enormous supporter of equality for women.
But whether they intend to or not, these conversations cling to highly misogynistic views of the world, which cloud any real explanation for why we're having less kids.
Larson's frame of a shift in mating ideologies, for example, quickly naturalizes women's subservience to men. The supposed tendency for heterosexual women to seek quote-unquote higher value male partners is interpreted as some primal urge, rather than the historically contingent outcome of a world which, in the case of the US and the UK at least, didn't allow women to independently open bank accounts until the mid-1970s.
On a far more fundamental level, there's also this sense that despite these claims by pronatalists that they're all for women's liberation, there is this sense that all of this is kind of women's fault.
Women are portrayed as beings with agency who are denying men relationships and children, while men themselves are seen as passive victims of the fertility crisis.
How do you know that it's women's standards being too high and not the standard of men decreasing?
Like, that is the brain of somebody doing strong Lepa Brenna-sized lines of patriarchy. Like, the only question he poses to a sexist argument, which is women's standards are very high, is a sexist argument, which is men are pussy boys. make it make sense. What, like, can you imagine how sad these people are? How, like, dark their day is? How enveloped in just anger and evil and lack of any sort of enlightened principle. It's whatever the opposite of wisdom is. The only question I will pose to whether women be bitches and they don't want to fuck us is, what if men be pussies and they don't deserve bitch? Thank you very much, Tsar Alex, you fucking G, for the 9 months. Carrying this child soldier to full term. Thank you. Do not expect me to pay any alimony.
Because it's relative. I mean, men are men and women are women. Going out and saying to men you have to get better. I mean, who would go out and say Somalis need to get better or
this gendered
Yeah, the same kind of guy as you. Bigoted people. That's the point. You're looking at social categories and ascribing some eternal quality to them. That's called being inscientific. That's called believing in mambo jumbo. God fucking damn it, man. Oh, yeah, but like I you know, there's like layers. I like to call it the idiot hierarchy. You know, and the higher you go in the reactionary idiot hierarchy, the more pathetic it becomes. And the more pathetic it becomes, the harder it becomes for you to make fun of them. Because it's just sad. These men live incredibly sad lives. They've dedicated their whole experience to screaming about women not wanting to have as much sex with men as they would want them to have. That is their daily grind. That's what they think about all the time. Imagine that existence. There are 3 genders. There are 3 genders, Tanky: man, woman, and Somali. Oh. Yeah, I think he was basically trying to say, yo, but saying that about men is like being a racist, yo. My boy was like, I'll take your sexism and I'll raise it with racism. Oh. Incredible.
Perspective is aided, of course, by the fact that if you trawl through the many, many podcasts which have been recorded about fertility rates over the past few years, there's something which feels like it's more absent than it should be. Maybe not entirely, but enough that it would be ludicrous not to mention a good 90% of them are just super...
He's equating the difference between genders and between races. He is, but he's like not allowing it to apply to men. He's like, women can be inferior, societies can be inferior, but men as a gender category cannot be inferior. They can never be wrong. It's incredible.
Lengthy conversations between 2 dudes. If you genuinely think that the decline in fertility rates is primarily...
Oh no! Where's my table going? Oh no! I'm small boy now. What if I stream the whole time like this? Hello chat, how you doing? Wait. Hello chat, how you doing? I'm small boy, Yugopnik. Today we're gonna talk about why natalists are fucking insane. What the fuck you mean I need to have 5 children? People confuse me with a child all the fucking time. You're telling me I'm supposed to have sex with someone? What the fuck? The only people that would want to have sex with me were arrested back when they fucking arrested Epstein. Holy fucking shit. What the fuck do you mean I'm supposed to have sex? Whenever I go and hit up girls in clubs, They can't even see me. They're like, where's that fucking noise coming from?
Dobar dan, and welcome to actually Yugopnik that is so big he is off camera. Today we will talk about pronatalists. I am scared of these people because sometimes I now have 40 children. Once I not in toilet, public toilet, and I leave. 40 years later, 50 people call me and they're like, I am your child. And I'm like, why? And they're like, on that day, 50 different women took to take piss in toilet, but the strength of sperm from Big Yugo impregnate all of them. Duh.
This is those are two characters. The one was tiny, and this one is the big one. It's not me. I'm not saying I have big man sperm. That is fucking disgusting. Okay, very good. You go. What the fuck? I was doing the small one, and then Did you like? What's that term that you Yanks use for kids in high school that did drama class? I'm an eternal drama boy. What the fuck was the word? Theater kid, yeah. Theater kid. Nerds.
Really the result of women making different choices than they used to. It just feels like a good starting point would be to ask one.
The other core problem with these conversations, however, is that it's just not that clear at all that the decline in fertility really is primarily the result of
Quote, what's that term you Yanks use for kid into theater? Yeah, very funny.
Cultural concerns. In fact, despite Jordan Peterson's comments about narcissism, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that most people still do want to have children. The real question then is why they're not able to achieve that desire. Oh shit! Let me show you some polling from Gallup.
This is a line graph tracking changing opinion.
They cannot achieve that desire of having a child because they are financially fucked. So if these people constantly talking about the need for more children wanted to actually address the situation, they would unfuck the wider population financially by introducing an alternative system. But they cannot do that because the main reason they want more kids is so that there are more future poor people that can be indentured serfs. That is it. I've said this fucking point 20 times right now, but there's new chatters constantly coming in, so I have to repeat it.
On the ideal family size upon America.
Remember, they don't want more kids, they want more poor kids, okay? They don't want more enlightened people, they don't want more happy people, they don't want people who are capable of finding purpose. They just want more indentured serfs that are literally created by forcing individuals of lower income strata to have more kids. The eternity of the internal contradiction of the reactionary is not wanting welfare queens, but also understanding that their whole society would fall apart without them.
From 1935 to the present day. What it shows is that after a steep decline during the 1970s, a preference for larger families has been broadly...
I think the Nazi couple actually want only rich white people to breed because they're like, eugenics.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But they made an additional point where they were like, hey, we want the government to give money to corporations, which will then do a much better job of utilizing that money to encourage normal people to have more kids by, turning them into, to repeat myself for the 500th time, indentured serfs, by putting them into debt slavery. Thank you very much. Post-partisan depression for the 12 months. Thank you very much. I am currently in post-partisan depression. It's a very nice name, by the way. It's very funny, very edgy, very smart.
Increasing for some decades. The same data set shows that not wanting to have kids at all remains pretty rare, with just 8...
It impregnated 50, but only 40 children, so 10 died during the impregnation. No, I ate them. Strong sperm be created from eating own children.
8% of respondents replying that they neither have children currently nor want them in the future. UK polling has similarly found that among 18 to 34-year-olds, just 13% are currently childless and determined to stay that way.
All of which leaves us in a kind of odd scenario. If the vast majority of people still want to have kids, then what's stopping them?
Well, we have some polling data here too, although the answers are a little muddier. When the topic of declining fertility first began gaining some mainstream attention a few years ago, the New York Times commissioned a poll asking Americans aged between 20 and 45 who currently had or expected to have fewer children than they would ideally like, why they expected to fall short of their goal. The top 5 on that list? Childcare is too expensive. Want more time for the children I have. Worried about the economy. Can't afford more children. And waited because of financial instability. In short,
so you basically have two categories of people that either stop having more kids or cannot stop having more kids. One is inside of a country that is extremely impoverished, but where education levels when it comes to procreation are very low. So both women and men sometimes are not introduced to the concept of being anything except a parent, and kids are utilized as financial tools for the family to basically survive, because most of them are making money through physical labor, and kids can do physical labor especially at teenage days. And then you have impoverished countries, because remember you're expecting me to say there are any rich countries on the planet. No, for the working class, every single place on the planet is impoverished, but where education levels are on a relatively higher level, where people understand that if they have more kids, they will not have the financial means to care for them, and therefore choose not to do so. And the part of the world where I'm from is very peculiar on this topic, because we are incredibly poor, but because we were a part of a socialist experiment in the past. We have had free education, and to an extent free education in a lot of places to this day, but the ideology that existed in those past socialist experiments did its best to educate women particularly on the fact that having children is a choice, and that has been passed down from generation to generation up until today. So we are kind of a combination of both. We are incredibly poor, but we have the ideological current which informs us that having kids for the sake of kids, it's kind of fucked up for the kids. And that is why Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and not that much Central, but Eastern and Southern Europe has the highest declining rates, because we're fucked from both sides. We both don't have kids, but we are informed enough, because we used to live in Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union. We are informed enough to know that we shouldn't have more kids when we're poor. And that's how countries died. And that on top of people basically, because of very high education standards that exist here that are borderline free, a lot of kids, teenagers, students, end up finishing college, and then you get brain drain, which is basically most of your highly skilled labor emigrating to other countries after the country has paid for pretty much their entire education, because it's still following this or that form of socialist doctrine on the topic of education. Thank you very much, Pandas, for 12 months. Thank you for a great almost year. No, thank you, Pandas, you fucking G. Thank you so much, Pandas. Aj, sretna nova godina, druže.
Time and money. And this polling was carried out.
So you have an outward migration and not enough births. Screwed. Yeah, we have the worst of both. And we don't even have immigration. Okay? We don't even have that. So it's fucked from every side.
Before the pandemic and rampant inflation inspired a new wave of economic anxiety. Noting the particular drop-off in births among millennials, the Washington Post's Andrew Van Dam wrote in 2023 that just about every source we consulted pointed to the broader economic climate. Hammered by the Great Recession, soaring student debt, precarious gig employment, skyrocketing home prices, and the COVID-19 crisis, millennials probably faced more economic headwinds in their childbearing years than any other generation.
And then you tell these billionaires like Elon Musk, they want you to have more kids. Maybe if you fix these problems instead of hoarding wealth, maybe we will have more kids. And obviously they stop having a conversation with you because, to repeat myself for the 10,000th fucking time, they don't actually want more people, they want more poor people.
The Guardian was even blunter in an article.
The children yearn for the mines, and they shall not be overtaken by dirty automation.
Earlier,
a kid is still cheaper than an automated fucking robot.
This year, leading with the headline, "It's money."
Yet other polls complicate this simple explanation.
The Pew Research Center recently asked a bunch of questions to the relatively small subset of Americans who neither have children now nor think they will in the future. Of those who actively want kids but who are simply pessimistic about their chances, direct economic concerns sit alongside worries about clashes with their careers and broader fears about the state of the world and the environment.
In fact, the more one digs into this topic, the more one gets the sense that...
Is that almost every single left-wing argument ever made would solve this problem of people not being able to decide whether they want to have kids or not. That's it.
Declining fertility rates is kind of an everything problem.
The historian Adam Tooze has argued that the period...
It's not an everything problem, it's a systematic problem, but I understand that, Tom's audience are, more like I don't know, ideological toddlers, so I'm not criticizing him here. But it's a systematic problem. This is not a natural state of affairs.
The period we're living through is the age of the polycrisis. A scenario in which repeated...
Because people will use an argument, okay, but people were much poorer in the past and yet they still had more children. Well, the point is we are now more educated but also poor. So we understand the long-term consequences of us having a child that we cannot either spend time with or financially support. So yes, we double screwed.
Financial crises have combined with war, environmental breakdown, pandemics, political instability, housing shortages, and wage stagnation to create a widespread sense that the world is just generally screwed. That this might have an impact on birth rates is unsurprising. Some aspects of this polycrisis, such as rising house prices and rents, actively make it much harder to be able to afford to have children. Others, such as the climate crisis and geopolitical uncertainty, make it harder to justify making the decision to have children in spite of those financial challenges and to simply try to make it work anyhow. All of which makes it doubly fascinating that conservative commentators are leaning so heavily into this issue. Because fixing the fertility crisis doesn't appear to be something that is fixable through targeted interventions. Even simply paying people to have kids doesn't seem to do the trick. The level of cash handout required to counterbalance the rising cost of housing, energy, and food, let alone actually clothing and feeding a child, would be ludicrous.
Reversing the trends in fertility rates then kind of involves trying to at least make some progress on all of that other stuff. Yet many of the most vocal pronatalists are at least fellow travellers with those who seek to either deny or exacerbate these problems.
It's not the money, it's not the money, it's not the money, it's the culture.
There's a sense that the popularity of pronatalism...
I wonder why she doesn't want to talk about the money argument,
on conservatives is rooted precisely in this contradiction.
Seems like how it's very taboo to talk about something that comes every 25 minutes here, but nobody wants to really talk about it. We have preached against it for many an eon now, and yet it still survives. Only in the darkest corners of Yugopnik Twitch does anyone ever still utter their name, but they are still here. Yes, I'm talking about the ad that is going to play in exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which you can finally murder, kill, butcher, destroy for $6 a month if we read through Prime or by gifting to those less privileged than you. For every 10 gifties, I give another 5 because I hate money, but I hate ads more.
contradiction. To argue that we need to do something about declining fertility rates from a conservative perspective, you have to argue that so-called population collapse is a greater threat than the climate crisis, inequality, nuclear war, misogyny, populism, and so many other issues.
And while for many of us that might seem like an inconvenience...
Populism, this is a pussy thing to do. Such a pussy thing to do. Okay, here I'm calling him out. That's a pussy thing to do, but okay.
To many conservatives and their hangers-on, it's an opportunity. It gives them a reason to play down all that other stuff.
Think about how much public attention has been galvanized towards climate change, worthy cause, something that people probably should be concerned about not trying to destroy the ecosystem, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen in 75 years. There are more pressing concerns.
This newfound focus on declining fertility means they can represent themselves not merely as anti-feminists or climate denialists or defenders of billionaires, tax avoiders and cheats, but as crusaders for a...
Thank you very much, ZVIH, for the gift sub, baby. Euros usually refer to populism as right-wing anti-corruption guys and racism. I'm a Euro, and no, we don't. Populism is all the guys that say they can solve things.
Far more important cause.
The real problem, however, is that none of these figures actually have any realistic solutions to this great threat that they're supposedly so impassioned by.
The Collinses want more babies born to the super rich. Matt Larson suggested we explore the benefits of polygamy. Elon Musk is currently salivating at the prospect of slashing the size of the US state, despite his own pet issue clearly requiring greater support for both parents and older people.
There's so much government waste that's going on that I would call it a target-rich environment. It's hard in every direction. There's this just mad waste.
When I first started researching this video, that wouldn't have bothered me all that much. I wasn't entirely convinced that population decline was anything more than a right-wing fantasy.
But while the global population evidently can't continue to rise forever, and now almost certainly won't, I have become pretty convinced that the speed at which it is currently set to decline does present us with some real and significant challenges. It will require us to rethink our aversion to taxation and spending, our openness to migration, our obsession with economic growth as an indicator of human progress, and much more besides. Easing the transition to a world...
And that is all very good, because those are called contradictions, and they are increasing, which leads to a breaking point in which whatever ideological current is the most organized on the ground will lead to an alternative society which is organized in alternative means to the current mode of production. Okay? You want these sorts of things to break, because it does need to get a lot worse before it gets better. You want more contradictions. That's, I guess, where we diverge with the creator.
Of downward population trends will also likely be helped by providing support to those who do want children to ensure mothers and parents aren't unjustly held back in their careers or placed in financial hardship.
The loudest voices in pronatalism today simply aren't able...
That, of course, does not mean we should not do our absolute best to better our conditions and to minimize said contradictions. But as we should know, as even the most basest of Marxists or anarchists, that's putting Band-Aid on a tumor and then putting a tumor on the Band-Aid and then putting a Band-Aid on the 14th tumor, up until a point that looks more like a fucking dick than it does a disease. So, yeah.
Able to have those conversations.
No, it's not accelerationism at all. That is just fact.
Doing so would run counter to their other...
Accelerationism would be to try and push that to go faster. You don't need to push it to go faster. It's already going.
Political priorities, and quite frankly, stop them from being able to use the issue as a source of panic and distraction. It is, however, going to be a topic that we're all going to be hearing a lot more about over the coming years, and which we should all give a lot more thought to. High five, great job. In fact, demographic change is something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
And that's because the political and economic consequences of our rapidly aging society is at the heart of my debut feature-length documentary, Boomers, which is out now and available to watch over on Nebula. Boomers follows me on a road trip around Europe and the US as I explore the lives and legacy of the baby boomer generation. If this video you're watching now has been about the big dip in fertility over the past 40 years and its acceleration over the past decade, Boomers is about the big bulge of births which preceded that. It investigates how that great mass of baby boomers passing through our society has affected our politics, our housing markets, our culture, the stock market, and so much more.
Boomers is available to watch exclusively on Nebula, the premium streaming platform that myself and a bunch of other fantastic creators have been building over the last few years.
It's just...
Yeah, fuck Nebula. Nebula can go fuck itself. Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Everybody go subscribe to Tom. You have the video in the pin. That was Tom, and that was natalism. I think I made my points very fucking clear. And I'm glad I did. They were
welcome to another
than
episode
that of the creator.